Welcome to another coding tutorial, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make this interactive falling text rain. We're going to start by figuring out how to display text on the sketch. So you'd want to come to this arrow here, click the plus sign, and then click create folder. And then in here you want to call your folder, I'm going to call it fonts. And then you're going to click this arrow here, click upload file, and this is where you want to drop your font file inside. And then once you do that, you're going to be calling a function preload, and this is going to allow you to preload the font before you call the program. You also want to set a variable, let's call it font, and then we're going to set font to another function called load font. And then inside here, you want to give an argument of where your font file is. And in my case, it's in a folder called fonts, and then the file name is called p5.js-regular.ttf. So that's exactly what I'm going to put in here. And then also don't forget a quotation mark here, fonts \/p5.js-regular.ttf. All right, I'm going to click run, just to make sure that everything is working, and everything is working. Great. And then inside draw, we're going to call a few functions to display a letter on the sketch. So let's start with the first function, text. And text takes in a few arguments. The first one is the text, a string of text that we want to write. I want to just write a letter. So let's say we also declare t, a variable t, and set it equals to a. And that's the text that we're going to write. And then the second and the third argument are the x and y location of the bottom left corner of where we want to draw the text. So how about we set x and y as variables here, and then inside setup I'm going to set it in the middle of the canvas, and then let's put x and y here. Let's click run. All right, so now we have a on the sketch, and it is drawn at a default size. But if we want to change the size, we can just put in text size and then put in an argument. Let's call it size, and I'm going to also set a size to, how about let's do 100. All right, and as you can see, this A is actually not of the font p5.js-regular. So we want to also change the font, and we can do that using a function called textFont, and the argument will be our variable font. And as I mentioned earlier, the x and y coordinate here is the x and y location of the bottom left corner of where we draw the text. But I actually want to arrange this such that the x and y coordinate will be at the top left corner of the letter. So I'm actually going to use a function called textBounds. So let's look at the reference page. So the textBounds is a function that returns the bounding box for a string of text written using the font. The bounding box is the smallest rectangle that can contain a string of text, and we're going to call it using this syntax here, font.textBounds. And what do we need to provide? So we need to provide, first is the string of text, and then the x and y coordinates of the text, which is the bottom left corner, which we already have, and then the font size. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to actually call x and y here as x0 and y0. Then I'm going to create another variable called bbox for bounding box, and then set it to font.textBounds. And then the four arguments that I need to put in is, first is the text, then the x and y location of the bottom left corner of this letter here, and then the size. All right, so how about we print what bbox returns? So bbox returns an object of 4 values, right? X, Y, H, and W, which is x and y coordinates of the top left corner of the bounding box, and then the width and the height. So how about we now set x to be equals to bbox.x, y to be equals to bbox.y, and then width to be equals to bbox.width, and height to be equals to bbox.height. And then I also need to redo the variables here. So we have x0 and y0, and we also have x, y, width, and height here. And then how about we draw the rectangle now using x, y, width, and height. I'm going to put no fill here, and then we're going to fill our text with black. Oh, we need to put in stroke of black. Oh, it has to be, yeah, x, y. What did I do wrong? Oh, this has to be x0 and y0, right? We need to provide the original x and y coordinates of the text. Let's try that. Okay, so if you were to change the letter here to something else, it should work just the same. So how about we also set another variable, an array called alphabets, and it's going to be an array of upper letter alphabets. All right, and then t would just be a random value inside this alphabets array. I think this should work. Okay, I think it doesn't work because this random function has to be called inside setup. So t equals to random of alphabets. All right, now let's put all of this inside a class. So let's come to this arrow here, click the plus sign, click create file. I'm going to call this file letter.js. We're going to write a class. So before we do that, let's go to index.html and then come down to this line of code, do copy and paste, and then change the name sketch here to the name of your new file. In my case, letter.js, and this is how you integrate a new JavaScript file into your program. All right, so now we're ready to write a class. Let's start with the word class, and then the class, I'm going to call it letter. Inside the constructor function, what do we need? Let's go back to Sketch. So I actually want to put all of this inside the constructor function. All right, so this .t will be equals to random of the alphabets array, and then we're going to have this .x0 to be equals to width divided by 2, right? And then this .y0 to be equals to height divided by 2, and then x, y, w, and h here. Actually, let's do size first. So this .size will be 100. Let's go back inside here. So we already did this part. Now we want to declare the bounding box. So let's go back. Letter. Okay. So now we don't need this. We can just put this dot in front of all of this. Let's copy and paste. This has to be this dot t, this dot x0, this dot y0, and then this dot size. Great. Next, how about we write a method called display, and then we're going to put all of this inside that method. And then don't forget what? This dot for everything. All right, let's try calling just one letter, one object. So first, how about we declare a variable called L, and then L is going to be a new letter object. And then we're going to display it. All right. Okay, good. Now, what we want to do is that we want the letter to fall. So we need to declare another variable. How about we call it dy? How about we set it to 1? And then I'm going to create another method called update. And what this is going to do is that we're going to change the y location, right? By how much? By this.dy every time we call an object. Every time we call the draw function, right? So this.y will be plus or equals to this.dy. And then if we go back to sketch.js, we want to call the update function. Oh, only the box goes down. What did we do wrong? So, okay, so we still display the text at the x0 and y0 location, but we actually want to be displaying it at this.x and then this.what. So if we do this.x and this.y, you can see that it doesn't match up, right? Because of the location of the bounding box versus the text. So this.y here actually has to be this.y plus this.h. All right, so now the letter is falling. Next, what we want to do is that we want to create a paddle. And this paddle, once collide with the letter, it's going to stop the letter from moving. I've made a coding math videos on collision detection, and in this example, we'll be using the rectangle to rectangle formulas. So if you want a better understanding of how that works, be sure to check that out. But what we're going to do next is we're going to write a method called collide. And then I'm going to define 4 edges of the paddle, right? So it's going to be right, left, top, and bottom. I also want to give this collide method 4 parameters, x, y, w, and h. And then right is going to be x plus w, left is going to be x, and then top is going to be y, and bottom is going to be h. And then this collide method is going to check whether the 2 boxes, the 2 rectangles, collide with each other or not. Ooh, it is raining outside right now, so if you hear some raining noise, it is because we're coding some text rain. All right, so the 4 conditional statements I'm going to write is if right is greater or equals to x, to this.x actually, and left is less than or equals to this.x plus this.w, and then top is less than or equals to this.y plus this.h, and bottom is greater or equals to this.y, then we're going to return true, and then else we're going to return false. So if the condition above here is true, it means the 2 rectangles collide. And then now inside our update, what we want to do is that we want to call the collide method. And to call a method within a class, we just need to put in this dot. And then collide if it is equals to true. And then inside here, we need 4 parameters, right? So we need to set it inside update as well. X, Y, W, and H. And then inside here, X, Y, W, and H. All right, so if it is true, then actually I want to call this.y plus 0. I want it to stop. And then else, I want it to keep moving down, right? Okay. And then if we go back to sketch.js, now we need to declare x, y, w, and h. Actually, let's do x and then y. I want to set it in the middle, so let's do at 200. How about we set width to 70, then let's set height to 5. This is the paddle, the size of the paddle. And then we're going to call the rectangle x, y, width, and height. All right, let's fill it with the color black. And then inside update, now we have to put in 4 arguments, x, y, w, and h. And let's try this. Ooh, what did I do wrong? expecting a number. Oh, the reason that I didn't declare x here, and that is because I actually want to set x to be equals to my mouse x location. All right, it doesn't seem to work. Let's go back to letter.js. I actually want the location of y0 to be at the top before it falls down. Let's try again. Nope. Let's see, what did we do wrong? So collide. Oh, bottom is y plus h. Yay. Oh, you see that? Let's try again. So that's not what we want. We want it to stop moving when it hits the top plate right here. But then right now, it's because the two rectangles collide. That's why it stopped moving. So we actually need to adjust this equation a little bit. And we just need to adjust it such that the only thing that we check is the bottom edge of the letter. So this dot h here, and then this should fix it. So now sits here. All right, so all right, okay, so a few more things that we want to do. How about we put a bunch of letters on the sketch? Let's go back here. Instead of L here, I'm going to create an array called letters. And then I'm going to create another variable called num, and that is going to be a number of letter objects that I'm going to create. So let's set num to start with 10. We can start small. And then inside here, now we want to use the for loop, right? To create letter objects. So I equals to 0, and then I less than num, I plus plus. Now, instead of just L, it's going to be letters of I. And then we need to also call update and display on all of the letters objects. So letters of I, same here, letters of I. Okay, let's try that. Ooh, it's all clumped together. That is because the x location is set at width divided by 2. How about we randomize it between 0 and width? And then for the height, how about we also randomize it between, let's do -50 to -10. So I want it to start actually off the screen from the top so that it looks like it's falling, and I want to randomize it. Let's try. Okay, not too bad. Now it's working. Great. All right, a few more things that we want to do. First, I also want to randomize the size. How about I randomize the size between, let's do between 13 and 30. All right, that looks good. Then I also want to change the speed at which it's falling down, and I want the bigger the text, the bigger the letter, the faster it falls. So it seems like the ones that are bigger, which is closer to us, falls faster. And we can do that by mapping just the size, right? So how about we map this dot size between values of 13 and 30. And I'm going to set it between 0.4 and 2. And I don't want it to draw the rectangle anymore. Okay. Actually, I also want to put in no stroke. So the letter is a little bit cleaner and thinner. Then the last thing that I want to do is that I want to put in some colors. So let's set this dot C to be equals to black originally. And then we're going to fill this with this dot C. Then inside this conditional statement, I want to set this dot C to be this nice pink color. when it collides with the paddle, and then if not, let's set it to 0. Yay, that looks cool. But then the last thing now, as you can see here, once the letters move off the screen, they just disappear, right? So what if we, inside update here, we say that if this dot y plus this dot h, right, so the bottom edge is greater than height, then we want to reset everything. So we want to call all of this again. So how about we create another method called reset, and then I'm going to put in all of this. Ooh. Inside this function, this method reset, and then we're going to call this dot reset when we create the object, and also when the letter moves off the screen. So let's see. All right, so you see that it comes back. It looks like it's raining. And how about we just increase the number here to, let's do 30. So this is my take on text rain, but I think there are a bunch of things that you can do. What if you do a secret message such that someone needs to kind of move around the paddle and get that secret message that you want them to see, or change the colors, change the kind of detection that you want to do. This one, it's between rectangle to rectangle. What if you do rectangle to like a circular thing, right? So it looks like an umbrella. Yeah, just play around with this and give it a try.